Okay, I'm joined now by Roee. He's the co-founder and CEO of Forsea. That's a company pioneering cultivated seafood with a particular focus on freshwater eel. It's an exciting space with big implications for the future of protein, and I'm looking forward to exploring the company's mission, technology, and strategy with Roee today. It's not the first time. Welcome, Roee.
Hi, Nick. Thanks for having me here today.
It's
Good to
an
speak
absolute
with you.
pleasure. Yeah. To start us off, Rory, could you just introduce Forsea for readers who may not be aware of the company? What's your mission and how do you see your role within the cultivated seafood space?
Yeah, of course. So, Sea is a cultivated fish and seafood company with a very unique technology to produce various cultivated fish and seafood products. Um, we have a very unique technology that is based on organoids, mini tissues that spontaneously differentiate to the edible cells altogether. We have unique cell lines. We start from embryonic stem cells, and that really allowed us to design and implement a very unique process that is very much cost effective and could bring um, to the consumers vast amounts of fish and seafood products at low prices.
Mhm. I'm also interested in your own personal story. So, what motivated you to enter this space in the first place, and why did you decide to build Forsea around that vision?
So spent the earlier years of my career in the biotech, health tech, and food tech industries. I'm a biotech engineer, but most of my career I've been in the business side of the companies that I work for. And I'm a big ocean lover. I surf. I surf with my kids in the ocean. Really love my life. And after several years in the food tech and then in the health tech, I decided that I would like to pursue new venture that will combine it all. And then, we're talking about 2021, the hype, 21, the hype around cultivated meat was at its highest. So um, I was seeking to establish a company in the space that will combine my passions. And then getting partners, professors from Tel Aviv University and the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. And we co-founded Forsea. And Moria, my co-founder, the CTO, joined immediately after.
And when you look at the broader alternative protein landscape, cultivated seafood, it's often overshadowed, shall we say, by beef or chicken. Where do you see it fitting in over the next decade or so?
That we really felt back in the day that it's quite a wide space. The other co-founders were pushing to beef or chicken, and with I wanted, of course, to focus on fish and seafood. But from business perspective, I felt that the opportunity is the highest in this space. Also, if you think about it, fish and seafood has a lot of niche markets with high value. So you have only beef and only chicken, but in fish and seafood you have the shrimp and lobster and eel and sea bream. You can play with different types of animals, and I think that with the significant climate change that we see in the recent years, the cultivated fish and seafood domain will take a very central role in the consumption of alternative proteins across the globe.
Mhm. I'm going to talk about the technology now. One of the long running challenges in cultivated seafood is cost, as it is in cultivated meat as well. In your view, what specific technological breakthroughs, whether that's cell lines or media or bioprocessing, what breakthroughs are going to be decisive in pushing cultivated fish towards price parity?
So there have been a lot of innovation in recent years. You may recall that I would say the first generation companies used to consume very large amounts of very expensive ingredients in order to develop their products. These ingredients were taken from pharma. Also, the technology was taken from biotech concepts. But in recent years, first of all, the media uh, costs went down significantly, but also companies optimize their processes to consume and their cell lines to consume far less media ingredients.
Mhm.
Also, processes became far more efficient. And, I would say the second generation companies such as Forsea were established in order to conceptually at least solve part of these problems. If you look at Forsea, we started with the organoid technology in order to save media costs and growth factors and waive the scaffolding stage. But what we found out is also that the fact that we are the only ones in the world that are using embryonic stem cells, pluripotent stem cells, to cultivate meat, or in our case, cultivate fish and seafood. This allowed us to also develop a very unique and efficient continuous harvesting process, and that's also reduced the cost of the production of cultivated fish for us significantly. Um, Probably we are the only company in the world that is, because of our very unique process, we can produce externally at CMOs and still reach far below price parity prices, make profit of it.
Yeah.
And that's, as I said, because of the organoid technology, because of the unique cell line, and also because of the process that we were able to assemble to support it.
Mhm. Beyond things like media costs and sale lines, where else do you see opportunities for efficiency gains that could help cultivated seafood compete with aquaculture and wild catch?
I think that from now on, it's process, process, process. So,
Mm.
we have to, because the technology already is out there to use far less amounts of media. The media costs by the suppliers or using, internal technologies decreased significantly to very low numbers for certain types of cell lines. And now the saving would have to come from the engineering part of the business. Now you look at a company such as Forsea that was built to produce, up to the finished product. So we have the cell line division, we have the media division, we have the engineering, and we have the food division. And now what we expect to bring the cost saving is the engineering, designing continuous processes, reaching high cell densities in the bioreactors, harvesting in the right time points, in the right quantities. And so to that, you have to design a very efficient process, and that will drop the prices to below the conventional alternatives.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that actually. There are quite a few people arguing that cultivated fish might one day fall below parity with conventional seafood. So you think that's realistic? And if so, what innovations might have to happen to make that possible?
Actually, we already see the roadmap to that. The fact that we are able to use fairly small bioreactors and still be below, to reach profitability for our premium products really allows us to plan how, when we scale up to larger bioreactors, we reach to very low single digit cost of products, and that will allow us to target not only the premium fish such as the eel, but also far cheaper whitefish types.
You've spoken about leveraging CMOs instead of building production facilities in-house. That's a strategic choice that not everyone makes. What are the technical and business considerations behind that, and how do you think it affects scalability?
So we learned during our funding processes that investors do not like to pay for capex. Um, Many companies, at least the earlier, the companies that were the first in the market, had to design our own processes, and that required a lot of capex. And once such fundings was available, but I'm not sure that it's available, at least from the VC perspective, that it's available anymore.
Mhm.
And when we looked at the figures that we can reach with our processes, we came to the conclusion that with the process that we develop, we do not really need to ask investors to fund capex. And we started looking for the right CMO to where we can produce. We identified several candidates, and now we're planning to do so.
Mhm. CMOs, they usually have deep expertise in bioprocessing, but food is a very different beast. So how do you ensure that your um, cultivated seafood still delivers sensory quality and the consistency that consumers expect when you're outsourcing production? Now, how do you ensure that they look after your babies, is what I'm saying.
So first of all, I guess again, this industry is evolving. At the beginning, there were no cultivated meat CMOs the earlier years, but in recent years, there have been several companies that were established in order to serve the cultivated meat space. So globally, there are several CMOs that are good. They have good flow equipment and quality standards, and also part of them are produced and companies launched products and crossed regulatory approvals with products that were produced in their locations.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, our process is very well protected along the value chain, and we have unique isolation methods. We have unique media, and we have a unique process. So the process is something that we will have to, uh, of course, convey to the CMOs that we will be working with. But the other two elements are something that we can keep in our proprietary, how we isolate the cells and how we establish the cell lines, as well as we are using. So on one hand, we make sure that we keep, protecting our IP from submitting patents and so on. And on the other hand, we do not have to disclose everything to the CMO where we will be working.
Mhm. If we zoom out to the systems level, Roee, how does cultivated fish integrate into a global protein supply chain, especially alongside the traditional forms such as aquaculture or even plant-based seafood alternatives?
I always see this as a new segment. And at the end of the day, cultivated meat, also the regulatory bodies will not label it as the, as this cultivated fish will not be labeled as the same as, fished fish. So there is a distinction that is really embedded within this product. And this is a new segment that will be consumed by the consumers around the globe. We have very delicious products. So at least from taste point of view and also price point of view, we deliver very attractive product, which are complementary to the other products that are available in the market.
Mhm.
Each one of these products that you mentioned, either the fished fish or the aquacultured one or the plant-based, has their own space, and we will create with our peers this news segment globally.
Mhm. With climate change driving ocean warming and acidification, wild fish supplies, they're increasingly fragile. So, what role do you see cultivated seafood playing in stabilizing supply for high demand species such as your unagi, your freshwater eel?
I was in Japan about a month ago, and when I was there, Nikkei, which is a very big newspaper in Japan, I'm sure that you know it, published that the water temperatures around Japan in the last 100 years increased between 1.5 to 2 Celsius degrees.
Mhm.
And then, in this paper, they have presented several fish species that declined like 10 times in recent decades. The cultivated fish really meets two major concerns. One of them is, the sustainability, the climate change, the ability to consume proteins from the oil. But it also meets the geopolitical concern. One of the things that the Trump tariffs did, for example, is that, many countries around the globe started to refocus on food security in terms of their ability to self-produce food products.
Mhm.
And if we're talking about countries such as Japan, where much of the food is imported, that's a very strong concern for their policy base.
Mhm.
So I think that back to your question, I think that cultivated meat and specifically cultivated fish and seafood has a huge role in the future consumption of locally produced food products.
Yeah.
And each one of the countries would have to make sure that it is able to self-supply its own food products, and fish and seafood, of course, whether it's coming from the various sources, is large part of it.
Mhm. Let's talk about one of your products now that's been receiving a lot of attention. That's the unagi, or freshwater eel. It's culturally prized and ecologically threatened as well, which makes it a fascinating starting point. So, what technical challenges did you face in developing those eel cell lines compared to more commonly studied species?
To be honest, we didn't have any. We've developed several cell lines of fish. Eel is the first product just because it is an endangered species. No one knows how to breed it, to close its breeding cycle. It's a premium fish and highly priced. But what we learned is that we are able to port our technology from one fish to another. Uh, I wouldn't say quite easily, but the protocol is known. So we've done it across several fish species. By the way, there was also some variation between our cell line establishment and of Japanese eel and European eel, and we have both.
Mhm.
So we haven't had any significant technical challenges specifically with eel, except of the ability to source the cell lines from uh, the, um, the people that are dealing with it. And we, after several collaborations in Europe and Japan, we've done it.
Mhm. Now, you've identified Asia and Japan in particular as your first major market. From a regulatory and consumer acceptance standpoint, what makes that region um, most suitable for cultivated eel?
So first of all, fish and seafood, I think that the region that is Asia is the highest consumer of fish and seafood, certainly per capita. And when we decided of eel as the first product, and obviously when we decided it, we knew that Asia will be our primary market. Japan is accounted of about 40% of the global consumption of eel, and China also has a very high demand, and that's followed by uh, uh, South Korea. So, and by the way, also in Europe and in the US, there is a demand of a few hundreds of millions of dollars, but the main market is in terms of regulation. Singapore was the first one to approve cultivated meat products. Japan, who used to be quite slow in the earlier years, is now really speeding up with the regulatory process, since the responsibility of the guidelines moved from the Ministry of Health, officially MHLW, Ministry of um, Health, Health, Labor, and Welfare, to the CAA, to the Consumer Affairs Agency, and they appointed a safety committee last November, and they are moving very fast. We anticipate that the guidelines will be published at the first quarter of next year, and that is really aligned with our go-to-market plans to launch first in Singapore and then in Japan.
Roee, of course, regulations differ dramatically across regions. So, how do you anticipate navigating the different frameworks in Asia, in Europe, and North America as you no doubt expand?
So we had several discussions with different regulatory bodies. They differ, but at the end of the day, I think that they are also very similar and they learn from each other. So we communicate, we make sure that our process and then our documentation would be aligned with all the and ready for submission across all of them.
We're going to wrap up now, Roee. Looking across the category, what do you see as the biggest risks or hurdles that cultivated seafood still has to overcome?
I think that the biggest problem of the cultivated meat industry now is funding, because a lot of money was invested in the ecosystem in the earlier years. Much of it came from VCs, and I'm not sure that in the future this money will be available for the cultivated meat companies. I think that there is a necessity, certainly, to growing the business. The earlier stage companies will get their funding, but in order to scale and reach significant amounts of food products, probably larger involvement from institutions or corporations will be required, because I'm not sure that this is still a VC play as it used to be.
No, certainly not. The landscape's definitely changed since that 2022 boom. Finally, Roee, looking a few years down the road, where do you see Forsea? What milestones will define success for you?
So in 5 years, we will be producing already a lot of tons of cultivated fish and seafood product. We will be present in at least 3 to 4 countries, and we will be probably also working on additional fish species by eel for commercial launch and sale.
Well, there's a lot to look forward to then, Roee. Look, thank you so much for your time and your insights today. It's been a great conversation, and I'm excited to see how you guys continue to shape the future of cultivated seafood. Thanks for your time.
It was nice chatting with you. Thanks. Thank you, Nick.
Take care.
Take care. Bye.